It's a huge clash at the FIDE World Cup as India's Vidit Gujarati takes on the formidable Nepomniachtchi. A spot in the next round is on the line, and the tension is palpable from move 1. Vidit opens with the pawn to d4, and Nepo responds with the aggressive Dutch defense, f5. Vidit immediately challenges with bishop to g5, and Nepo isn't shy, kicking it back with h6 and then g5, launching a flank attack right out of the gate. The players continue to develop, but the real story is on the king side. Vidit plays h4, directly challenging black's advanced pawns. Nepo prepares with his rook, and after the pawns are traded on g5, the h-file is ripped wide open. This will be a key battleground for the rest of the game. Both players now maneuver for position in this complex middle game. Nepo's queen swings over to b6, putting some pressure on the queen side, while Vidit solidifies his central control, developing his knights and bishops to strong squares. A tense battle is brewing. Vidit now shifts focus, launching a queenside attack with pawn to b4. After some preparation, the knight leaps out to a4, directly targeting the black queen and forcing it to retreat. White is grabbing space and initiative. Nepo finds the brilliant queen to d8, an absolutely critical defensive move, and the only one that keeps the balance in this tough position. The deep idea is this. After white plays queen to d2, black will continue with pawn to b6, safely castle the king queenside, and then launch a powerful counterattack with pawn to a5. The queenside battle intensifies. After both sides bring more pieces into the fray, Vidit pushes the pawn to b5, forcing a crisis. Nepo has no choice but to capture, and the pawn structure is permanently changed. The position remains incredibly sharp. White's bishop recaptures on b5, and the maneuvering continues. Both players are probing, looking for an opening. The knight hops to h5, the rook slides to b1. Finally, Vidit strikes in the center with pawn to c4, challenging black's control. The pawns are traded on d5, and Nepo's bishop recaptures. After a slight repositioning, black plays pawn to e6, solidifying the center and creating a very stable structure. And here, Vidit makes an inaccuracy, letting a serious advantage slip. He had a much stronger way to continue that would have kept black under serious pressure. The other knight could have jumped to c3, and if bishop to a8, the bishop drops back to d3. After rook to b7, the knight lands on the powerful b5 square, creating huge problems for black. But in the game, Vidit plays the other knight to c3, and the opportunity is gone, but Nepo misses it. Right after Vidit's slip, black had a golden chance to seize the initiative with a tactical blow that would have won a pawn, the stunning pawn to f4. After knight takes the bishop on d5, the pawn recaptures. White's bishop moves to f2, and pawn takes on e3 wins a clean pawn for black. But that didn't happen. Instead, Nepomniachtchi plays the quiet bishop to a8, and the position is back to roughly equal. A move later, Nepo does play the pawn to f4, but it no longer has the same tactical bite. Both players now shuffle their pieces, with rooks and bishops repositioning as they prepare for the next phase of the fight. And now, Vidit strikes. Knight jumps to b5, a fantastic square. Nepo's rook infiltrates to h1, but Vidit ignores it and snaps off the rook on c7. After the queen recaptures, white has won the exchange. But again, Vidit lets a clearer win slip. He's up the exchange, but there was a much more clinical way to convert this position, a forced sequence to win a full piece. The killer move was bishop to d3, forcing a queen trade on c2. After the bishop recaptures, black's knight jumps to f5, but bishop simply takes the knight on f5, and white is up a clean piece. Back in the real game, Vidit plays bishop to f2, a move which is still good, but gives black more chances to survive. A tense period of maneuvering follows. The players repeat moves, probing for weaknesses, with Nepo's rook causing a nuisance on the h-file. Finally, Vidit resolves the central tension by capturing on f4, and black recaptures with the g-pawn. Just a couple of quiet moves here, as both sides adjust their pieces for the endgame struggle. Another slip from Vidit. The position is incredibly complex, and for the third time he misses a clear path to a winning advantage. There was a tactical idea to win a pawn here. The correct move was bishop to b5. Even if black's rook takes the pawn on g2, white's queen swings to c7. After black grabs the a-pawn, white's bishop takes the knight on d7, winning a pawn. But in the game, Vidit plays the bishop back to g1, and once again, the chance is missed. Black's rook finds a new home on h5, and Vidit brings his knight back into the game at c3. And this is the decisive mistake from Nepomniachtchi. Under pressure, he cracks. He had a chance to grab a pawn and turn the tables, but instead he plays a move that hands the win right back to Vidit. The engine screams for queen takes the pawn on a3, After knight to e2, bishop gives a check on h4. The king steps to d1, and with bishop to c6, black is simply up a pawn with a great position. Instead of that, Nepo jumps his knight to f5, and now white has a decisive winning advantage, and Vidit does not miss this time. The knight leaps to the monster square on b5, and the pressure becomes immense. He methodically improves his position, bringing his queen to c8 and tightening the screws on black's cramped setup. The queen slides over to c7, a fantastic centralizing move that completely paralyzes black's position, and that is the final blunder. Nepomniachtchi, under unbearable pressure, makes a move that walks right into a tactical shot that ends the game. He had a way to hold on a bit longer. He had to try bishop to g5. After rook to g1 and bishop to d5, white's king steps to f1 and the rook to h6 would keep the fight going. But in the game, he plays bishop to d5 immediately, allowing white to shatter his position and win material. Vidit converts with ruthless precision. He first tucks his king safely to d2. Then comes the crushing bishop takes knight on f5, destroying black's pawn structure. The rook swings to e1, the knight jumps to d6, and black's position completely collapses. The final sequence begins. White's pawn captures the bishop on e4, opening lines to the king. Black's rook grabs the pawn on g2 in a last gasp, but Vidit's rook simply slides to g1, preparing the final blow. And there it is! Rook takes rook on g2 with a decisive check, a fantastic find from Nepo. The pawn takes the rook on g2. It's the only move to avoid immediate disaster, and it creates a terrifying passed pawn. But white is still winning. The knight takes the pawn on f5 with check. The king is forced to f8. Bishop develops to e3, and after bishop to e7, white is still up a clean piece. But Vidit is calm. He pushes his own passed pawn to d5, ignores a desperate check on g5, and simply steps his king up to e2, and it's all over. And at this point, Nepomniachtchi resigns, a massive victory for Vidit Gujarati. Nepo saw that there was no way to stop white's attack, resigning here because of this beautiful sequence. If black's queen moves to f6, the knight delivers a deadly check on e8. And the king is forced out to g6, the knight takes the queen on f6, and after the recapture, white is simply up a clean piece with an unstoppable attack.